Man, has 2020 been a weird year or what? I don't remember anything that comes close to the turmoil that's already occurred in 2020. Now, spring's usually the time when many new riders come into the motorcycle family. This year's been a little bit different because COVID-19 restrictions have caused cancellation of new rider classes, and people are just staying at home. Now, some of that is starting to ease up, and I've seen some new rider classes that are happening as scheduled. And maybe if you're wanting to learn to ride a motorcycle, things are finally starting to open up a little bit for you to be able to do that. But this video is intended for you, that new rider out there or soon to be new rider. And these are 5 of the biggest mistakes that I see new riders making. Hey, my name's Kevin and I release a weekly video here on MCrider focused on road skills or road strategy to help you become a better rider. Hit that subscribe button and that bell icon to get notified of all new videos, or head over to MCrider.com and you can watch every video ever released on MCrider. And they're in a searchable and sortable format by topic on MCrider.com. So one of the first mistakes that I see new riders make, especially new younger riders that are on a tighter budget, is how they allocate their budget to get into riding. Now, everybody, at least everybody that I know, has some kind of budget that they have to live on. But let's just pull some rough numbers. Let's say you've got $5,000 to get into motorcycling. If you spend all $5,000 on a motorcycle, you don't have anything left over for gear or training. And in my opinion, those are the first things that you should spend your money on. Everybody gets excited about the motorcycle and they rush out and buy that and they forget about the other stuff that they'll need. So let's pull some very rough numbers, but let's say you spend the following. Let's say you spend $300 for a middle of the line full face helmet. So it's not the most expensive helmet out there, and it's not some cheap helmet that'll fall apart after a few weeks of use. And like most things in life, there's a little bit of a diminishing return from a middle-of-the-road helmet to a luxury helmet. So roughly $300 is a good place to start, and it'll get you a really nice helmet that'll last many riding seasons. So we'll spend $250 for a jacket with armor and protection for road rash. And if you plan on riding year-round, you may need to purchase a second jacket later. You'll need one for warm weather and one for colder weather. You'll spend $75 roughly for a good pair of gloves, $150 for a pair of boots if you don't already have some good sturdy boots. And let's say you budget $200 for a pair of riding pants. So at this point, we're at $975. We'll round that up to $1,000. That $1,000 will get you good gear that'll last for a few riding seasons, so you'll be set for a while. Let's spend $250 on a training class, and I highly recommend taking an intermediate class or the same new rider class if you don't have an intermediate class available around you after the first 6 months to a year of regular riding. And even if you take that same class again, you'll be amazed at how much you learn the second time, and it reinforces what you learned in the initial class. So now we're at $1,250 to $1,500 before we've even started looking at a motorcycle. So can you get a decent motorcycle for $3,500? Yes, if you shop smartly, you buy used, and you buy the right motorcycle that will help you be successful on 2 wheels. Which that brings us to our second mistake that I see a lot of new riders make, is buying the wrong motorcycle. Now there's a little bit of pressure from the outside forces when you get into riding a motorcycle. Most people know someone who rides and they hear advice like, man, don't buy too small. If you get too small of a motorcycle, you'll outgrow it in a month. Or they want to go to bike nights and they don't want to show up on a smaller motorcycle, so they buy something for more money than they should have spent, with more power than they could ever use, and it hinders their path into motorcycling proficiency. And it will hinder your progress being on the wrong motorcycle. Riding a big, powerful motorcycle that you just spent a lot of money on can be a terrifying experience for a lot of people. And I've seen new riders who are terrified to drop their new motorcycle. They go out, they've got the budget, they go out and spend $15,000 to $30,000 on a motorcycle, and they don't want to drop it. And I can't blame them. I wouldn't want to drop it either. So they won't train on it or practice U-turns. They won't practice emergency braking. They won't push their ability even just a little bit for fear of dropping that motorcycle. And that fear and pride causes them to just ride in a straight line down a straight road, and they never grow as riders until it's too late when a car pulls out in front of them. My advice for your first motorcycle: buy used, buy a smaller CC motorcycle than you really want, and something you won't be totally discouraged if you drop it. You could resell that same motorcycle in a year and get most of your money back. Then you can take that money and buy something more in line with what you really want. And will you have fun during that first year on a smaller motorcycle? Absolutely. You'll be riding a motorcycle, and you'll have a whole lot of pressure and fear being on that smaller motorcycle. Small bikes aren't just for new riders. I've got a little Yamaha XT 250, a starter bike that a lot of people would call it. And that thing's a blast, man. One of the things that you learn is it's a lot more fun to ride a slow motorcycle fast than a fast motorcycle slow. And hopefully the guy who sold me that bike won't see this video, but here's the story behind it. He was a new rider. He did well with the first motorcycle he purchased because he bought something that was really manageable, and for a new motorcycle it was less expensive than a lot of others. But the problem was it was new. I've got the numbers on it. He paid $5,062.72 out the door. He rode it to work, putting roughly 240 miles on the motorcycle. Somebody pulled out in front of him, and even though he didn't crash, he was done with motorcycles. He said he wasn't enjoying it that much, and that really put fear into him, and he was done with the bike. So he sold the motorcycle to me roughly 5 months after purchasing it for $2,750. So some quick math tells us that this rider spent $2,312.72 for 240 miles worth of riding, not even counting what he spent on his gear. Had he bought used, he could have saved a lot of money to see if this was something he really wanted to do to become a motorcyclist. Now, I'm not sure why I'm telling you guys this, because I love riders like the guy I bought the XT from. I've purchased several motorcycles under the same exact circumstance. Rider buys a new motorcycle, puts 500 miles on it, decides he doesn't want to ride, and sells it for a whole lot less than they paid. And if you live in the city, it's always a good idea to keep an eye on Craigslist. That's where I found this one, because there's some real bargains out there if you're quick to snap them up. Now, I love the little XT. I've already taken it on some off-road places that I'd never go on the BMW, and certainly not on the Goldwing. And I can get out on that motorcycle and feel like I'm really rolling on the throttle and tearing up the road. I look down at the speedometer and I'm riding at the speed limit. If I were to apply the same throttle to the Goldwing or the GSA, I'd be over the speed limit in a heartbeat. And plus, they require a whole lot more finesse and riding skill, riding technique to ride those motorcycles. And they cost a whole lot more to repair if I were to drop one of those. And small bikes are a blast. You can have a lot of fun on them no matter what your experience level is. And you can learn to ride with a whole lot less pressure than you would be on your dream motorcycle. So my advice: buy used, buy small. Learn to ride the motorcycle that you've got without fear of dropping it, and you'll be miles ahead of most riders in experience, skill, and general riding ability when you do get your dream motorcycle. So we've talked about a couple of mistakes that new riders make, and we haven't even thrown a leg over a motorcycle yet. So let's head out to a parking lot, and we'll talk about some common mistakes that I see new riders make when they're actually learning how to ride the motorcycle. The first on-bike mistake that's common to new riders is not knowing how to use the clutch. Now, one of the early vehicles I learned to drive on was my dad's old Ford pickup truck with a 3-speed column shifter. In order to drive that truck, you had to manipulate a clutch and the shifter in order to get it going. And even though it wasn't the same physical process as using a clutch on a motorcycle, the concept was the same. A rider who comes in having some experience with the clutch on a car or a truck has a big advantage over a rider who doesn't, but there are not many cars and trucks today that have a standard transmission. It's becoming a thing of the past. New riders often treat a clutch as an on-off switch. Squeeze in the clutch, it removes all the power from the engine. Release it, it adds power. But the first thing that they need to learn is that clutch is a little more like a volume knob on a stereo and not an on-off switch. You release it slightly into the friction zone, it adds some power. Release it a little bit further, and it adds more power to the rear wheel of the motorcycle. When you're getting the motorcycle rolling or doing slow speed maneuvers, you're actually controlling the power of the motorcycle with the clutch, not the throttle. So that new rider will slowly release the clutch, the motorcycle starts rolling, and then they'll quickly release the clutch, causing the motorcycle to stall. But just like that stereo knob, volume on the stereo, you have to slowly turn up the volume. On the motorcycle, you want to slowly continue to release that clutch as the motorcycle starts rolling. One of the best exercises to learn the clutch and the friction zone on a motorcycle is a rocking exercise. All you're doing here is releasing the clutch into the friction zone. Motorcycle starts moving forward, then you squeeze the clutch to remove power from the engine. This exercise will help the new rider learn how to manipulate the clutch and how the clutch affects the power to the engine, and it will help them learn how to get going on the motorcycle without stalling the engine. Learning how a motorcycle turns is another stumbling block for a lot of new riders. At speed approximately 15 miles per hour and up, the motorcycle turns by leaning. You initiate that lean by counter steering or simply just pressing on the hand grip on the side that you intend to turn. So if I want to go left, I push on that left hand grip, motorcycle leans left, it goes left. Push on that right hand grip, motorcycle leans right, turns right. So let's get the motorcycle up to speed and I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about here. So the motorcycle's going in a straight line. If I push on that right hand grip, the motorcycle will lean and go to the right. If I push on the left hand grip, the motorcycle will lean and go to the left. That's how you initiate that turn, by pushing on the side of your intended turn. It's a very important concept to get down and to practice on a parking lot. You want this ingrained into your riding. Now, riders often crash in corners, and one of the reasons why they do that is that when the rider gets into panic mode, they often fail to lean the motorcycle more through the corner by counter steering and looking where they want the motorcycle to go. So it's good to practice for new riders on an open parking lot, just leaning the motorcycle left and right, just swerving back and forth. There's no cones involved. You're just getting used to that counter steering and putting pressure on the hand grips to get the motorcycle to lean. You can repeat it in your head if it helps. Push right, go right. Push left, go left. As you do that on the handlebars of the motorcycle. Another common mistake that I see is riders not getting the motorcycle down into first gear when they come to a stop. If I approach the stop and keep the motorcycle in a higher gear, I can't get the motorcycle going when I'm ready to leave the stop sign without the motorcycle being in first gear. So I either have a rough start, or I stall the motorcycle, or I have to shift down into first gear to get it going again. So let's look at the right way to do it. As I approach the stop, I'm squeezing in the clutch. I'm keeping it squeezed in, but I'm shifting down through the gears as the motorcycle slows down. By the time I reach the stop, I'm in first gear and I'm ready to go. Generally, as you slow down to 5 to 10 miles per hour, the motorcycle is ready for that final shift down into first gear. So even though I'm not releasing the clutch, I want the motorcycle in the proper gear for the road speed, so that if I do need to release the clutch and move out of the way and ride, I'm already in the proper gear to do so. If done correctly, come to a nice smooth stop with the motorcycle in first gear by the time you stop and ready to take off again. You can look at your owner's manual, and it'll have a chart to show you the proper road speed for any given gear on your motorcycle. And every motorcycle is different, but your owner's manual will have that information for your specific bike. If you don't have the owner's manual, there's almost always available in a PDF format for free online. Just do a search for it, or it will be on your brand of motorcycle on their website. You can generally find those. But as a general rule, the proper gear for road speed will put the motorcycle in a range of 2,500 to 4,000 RPM. But for more detailed information, refer to your owner's manual. I say this a lot, but it's true. It's important for new riders to get training. Riding a motorcycle is not like any other pastimes or hobbies you've ever had. This is one, if you don't know what you're doing, you can get hurt. So start with proper gear, get training, and then practice sound riding technique, and it'll pay you back with years of great adventures in return. Members of MCrider have access to exercises you can work on in the field guide and a knowledgeable group of riders on the forums that'll help you get started. Go to MCrider.com for details on becoming a member. And until next week, guys, it's Kevin with MCrider, and I'll see you on the road.